This is a Fox News alert hours before his self-imposed May 1st deadline. We're learning tonight that President Trump has made a decision on those controversial steel and aluminum tariffs. Kristen Fisher is tracking it all, joins us now with the latest developments. Hello, Kristen.
Hey, Shannon. This decision, it really came down to the wire, making some of our allies very nervous. Less than 4 hours before tonight's midnight deadline, the White House announced that it would delay a decision about whether to impose steel and aluminum tariffs on the European Union, Canada, and Mexico. So what this means is that those countries now have an additional 30 days to negotiate. But if the president's remarks at that rally on Saturday are any indication, he does not appear willing to be ready to back down.
Disastrous trade deals, which I'm straightening out, and I'm not saying, hey, there may be a little pain for a little while, but ultimately for my farmers, I love my farmers. They're great patriots.
Now, these tariffs were set to go into effect tomorrow, a 25% tariff on steel, 10% on aluminum. Just last week, the presidents of France and Germany were at the White House urging him to reconsider.
The
president will decide. That is very clear. We had an exchange of views on the current state of affairs of the negotiations and the respective assessments on where we stand on this. And the decision lies with the president.
I'm confident about the future of the trade relationship, as I think it's part of a broader picture where our interests are totally aligned.
Tonight, the White House also announced preliminary agreements with Argentina, Australia, and Brazil that will allow them to avoid the tariffs, at least for now. And that, of course, is in addition to the permanent exemptions on steel tariffs that have already been granted to South Korea. The White House says in all of these negotiations, the administration is focused on quotas that will restrain imports, prevent transshipment, and protect the national security. So Commerce Secretary Wilbur Ross says that these countries are going to have to choose either tariffs or quotas. But so far, Canada, Mexico, and the European Union have refused to agree to those terms. About an hour ago, a spokesperson for the British government released a statement that says we will continue to work closely with our EU partners and the U.S. government to achieve a permanent exemption. So they're still refusing to back down, but so is the president. So now we have 30 more days to see if either side is going to give. Who will call chicken, right?
Right, and we'll see if there's another extension.
Right.
Past the 30 days.
Right.
So we're making some progress, but still a ways to go.
It could go 30 more days beyond that.
Thank you for tracking it all.
My pleasure.
All right, so what does it all mean? Let's talk about it with Scott Paul, president for the Alliance for American Manufacturing, and Brian Bremberg, the chair of Business and Finance School at the King's College in Manhattan. Thank you both, gentlemen, for being with us tonight.
Good to be here.
All right, Brian, I know that you've said that the EU and the U.S. agree on the problem. What they don't agree on is the solution. Explain.
Yeah, look, everybody knows that China has been subsidizing steel and aluminum production, and that's caused a glut of steel worldwide, sending prices down. So the EU and the U.S. get that. The question is, how do you deal with it? The EU has said, let's go to the World Trade Organization, let's litigate this thing. And President Trump has said that just hasn't worked. So we want to do something that we think will work. And he's trying to push quotas and tariffs as a way to do that, to really force our partners, if they really think this is a problem, then get on it and do something about it. And the only way to do that is to bring a stick to the conversation.
Okay, now you heard the president reference there, and Kristen's reporting this weekend talking about farmers and how they're going to be tough and they are patriots and they can handle this, because we've heard a number of nations around the world talk about their boycotts or their tariffs that they may institute on U.S. products. That has a lot in the farming community worried. Here's Senator Langford. He's a Republican from Oklahoma, talking about farmers and their fears.
And a lot of our farmers really are on the edge of the knife at this point because they have to be able to plan for what's coming in the future. And if you don't know based on the trade policy, it's very difficult to be able to plan months in advance or a year in advance.
So, Scott, how much a worry now in both farming, agriculture, and manufacturing here in the U.S. is there's a potential for backlash?
I think that there obviously is a slim potential for backlash. I think a much more likely result is to restore some balance with our trade relationship with China. And that's something that I think both farmers and steelworkers and other manufacturers can agree on, that we aren't getting a fair deal. I think the president is absolutely right about that. And I think this broad tariff strategy, which includes other countries, will have an impact to both provide the relief for the steel industry that it needs domestically and also to, I guess, in effect, quarantine this bad behavior that China has and this massive overcapacity they have in sectors like steel. We've talked about this for a long time, and doing something about it will have some cost. I'm confident that this administration can look out for farmers and also look out for steel workers at the same time.
Well, Brian, I know that you think this could potentially have implications with negotiating a deal with North Korea as well over their nuclear program.
Yeah, I'm not surprised that we saw the delay happen tonight because the president has bigger negotiations going on right now. I mean, he really sees an opportunity to do something about Iran. He obviously sees an opportunity with North Korea. He's looking for allies in those conversations. EU member countries are going to be those allies. So I think he's kicking the tariffs down the road a little bit here to say, look, I need your help with these negotiations. There's a lot going on right now. Negotiation is complex. And so you have to remember there's many moving parts here. Tariffs are just one part of the overall foreign policy picture.
Quick final word to you, Scott.
Yeah, I think that we'll see this play out. I don't think that the exemption should go on indefinitely. I do think we should have expectations, even from the EU, about taking a tougher line with China on all of this. This behavior has been costly to workers in Europe, been costly to workers in the United States. The president actually, I think, needs the support of Congress and others, and I'm glad he's moving forward with this policy.
Well, as we watch China's economy continue to grow, Scott and Brian, thank you both for joining us with your expertise tonight.
Thank you.
My pleasure.